Today's speaker is Norm Seekman from the Edina Morningside Club. Norm's a member of the Morningside Club, and he serves as the club chair for the Rotary Foundation and a member of the International Committee. He's a sponsor for a Rotary project for the purchase and installation of equipment for smart classrooms at the University of Iringa in Tanzania, and our club has provided a cooperating grant with the Edina Morningside and Norm in this project. So Norm's here to tell us today more about the project and the mission of Iringa Hope and the impact of the University of Iringa in Tanzania. Please welcome Norm Seekman. Thank you, Norm.
Thank you, Kurt. Well, I'm very glad to be here with you today. Thank you for the invitation to speak. And also thank you for the donation from the Bloomington Noon Club to Edina Morningside as a collaborating club on the grant that we put together. So as Carol and I were talking, it's really good to have partnership between clubs where we know that we can work together on grants that make a big difference in the world and for which we're getting that additional leverage of district matching grant funds. So thank you all for that. So this is a view of the University of Iringa, and it's the Iringa mountains in the background, and this is a beautiful location. It's about 5,000 feet, and so when I fly into Dar es Salaam is on the coast next to the Indian Ocean, close to the equator, and it is hot, it is humid, 24/7, 365 days a year. And so when I make the transition of going to Iringa, it's at 5,000 feet, the temperature is beautiful, and it's not humid. So it's a great place to be. So people like Lee, very familiar with Tanzania. I'm not sure how many other people have been to Tanzania. Larry and Bessie. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's right on the equator, a little bit south of the equator, and just off the Indian Ocean. And Iringa is in what's called the Southern Highlands. Oh, sure. I tend to wander about, so I'll try to make sure I'm tethered here. So Iringa is in the Southern Highlands, and that's really known as the breadbasket of Tanzania. They grow maize and sunflower and just about every crop, every row crop, and they ship it out. They export it to Kenya on the north, Uganda, Zambia, all the surrounding countries. So what's it like in Tanzania? Well, I'm on the board of directors of an organization called Iringa Hope, and so we provide microfinance loans to smallholder farmers, and we have agricultural marketing cooperatives that also support smallholder farmers. And the first time that I was there, I saw people working in the field turning over the soil with a broad hoe. And I thought, well, and I saw this gentleman in the lower left-hand corner, and I'm watching him as I passed by in the morning. He was just starting. And I thought, is he going to keep going like that all day? And sure enough, when I came back late in the afternoon, he was turning over the entire field with this broad hoe and just working all day long. And this is still typical. We find that a lot of the agriculture, smallholder farmers are farming 2 to 4 acres apiece. Everything is done by hand. And so it's a lot like farming might have been back in the 1850s in the United States. In the lower right-hand corner is a picture of a farmer that's plowing with oxen, And actually, he does that on contract. He charges 50,000 shillings per acre to do that. And most farmers, smallholder farmers, they don't have enough money to be able to afford that, so they do everything by hand. And then once in a while, you'll see tractors in the field. And there are some farmers that have large farms, but most of the 80% of the population is involved in farming. That's compared to the United States, where 2% of the population is in farming. So, as I said, the organization that I'm on the board of directors for here, we provide funding for Iringa Hope in Tanzania, in the town of Iringa, in the region of Iringa, and also the region of Jambe. And so a loan to a farmer is about $300 a year typically. And that gives them enough money to be able to buy hybrid seed and fertilizer. Because without the hybrid seed and fertilizer, the yields are very low. And then we also have an agricultural marketing co-op, and that will aggregate, will purchase fertilizer in Dar es Salaam, transport it out to where the farmers are located, and gives them access to input supplies like hybrid seed and fertilizer. And we do a lot of education. Here is the agronomist who's on staff in our location in Iringa, meeting with farmers and talking about the benefits of using fertilizer and what kind of fertilizer is going to be appropriate for their location. So this slide shows two locations. They're located about 100 yards apart. And is anybody here associated with farming? How much would good farmers be able to get as far as corn yields here in Minnesota?
I just heard, I think, is it 60 bushels an acre? I can't remember. Or is it 150? I don't know. I'm not a corn person.
Well, I grew up in Illinois, and the guys that I went to school with, they tell me that they're getting about 250 bushels an acre, which is far more than you'll see anywhere in Tanzania. But if you're farming and you don't use any fertilizer, don't use any hybrid seed, you'll get about 16 bushels an acre, which is just hard to imagine, but that's what the field on the left would look like. And the field on the right is using the appropriate amount of fertilizer and hybrid seed, and that's going to be around 60 bushels an acre. So I am really glad to be a part of an organization that's helping people, because farmers are going to be able to typically triple their yields if they have access to capital so that they can buy hybrid seed and fertilizer. And when we're providing that fertilizer to them so that they can purchase it, they're going to be able to typically triple their yields and triple their income. So it makes a huge difference. And if they use all of the services we provide, it could actually increase their income by a factor of 5. So it's really amazing the difference it's making in people's lives. And so I'm spending a little bit of time on this up front before I start talking about the grant of providing smart classrooms for the university, because this is all part of the needs assessment that we go through. This is a storage location that we've got where we aggregate the crops of farmers, and then we will sell it at locations that are remote from Iringa. Could be up to Arusha, could be to Dodoma, the capital, could be to Dar es Salaam, wherever we can see that they will get the best prices. So when it comes to education in Iringa, this is a law seminar that's taking place in a conference room that Iringa Hope has, and it's being taught by a judge of the High Court of Tanzania, who was gracious enough to donate his time to teach a law seminar. And so this was a real productive group where it's a lot of give and take, lots of conversation. However, this is what more typical classrooms look like. And education in Tanzania it's largely rote memorization, it's exam taking, and there's not a lot of interaction and collaboration between the students, critical thinking or creativity. And a paper that was really recently written about education in Tanzania talks about the importance of the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. So you'll see large classrooms like this. So what are some of the needs that we have seen? Well, there's really a need. One of the needs is to improving access to technology and infrastructure. And this will be able to do a couple of things. First of all, in the university that's in Iringa, it's a university of about 12,000 students, there were no smart classrooms. And this is what we are going to help them with. This is the our organization with cooperatives. We do a lot of work with the university. We hire students as interns. We are collaborating with their professors, and this is the dean of the law faculty. And when I was there in the beginning of 2024, we spoke, and she said, "Hey, we know that your Rotary provides grants, and would you be willing to put together a grant for the university?" And I said, "Absolutely. We just need to know what you need, because that's part of needs assessment, not to provide what we think they need, but to listen to people there on the ground as to what's needed." And so she came back to me early this year and said, "We really could use some smart classrooms. We've got graduate classes where we teach in the evenings, and there are people that are remote from the university that could really be able to take advantage of the university classes that we have." And so we talked about that, and I said, well, part of the requirement is to put together a pro forma invoice of what would be spent and how much the cost would be. And naturally, that is something that the grant review committee for the district needs to have to make sure that this is really a well thought out grant. So this is the equipment. It looks pretty simple. It's really an interactive whiteboard and a computer and access to the network. And this is about $4,500 per classroom. And so this will be the first time that they will have had smart classrooms in place at the university. Now, many times, and Lee, you might have run into this, communication is not great in Tanzania. So when we are holding Zoom calls with our staff there in Iringa, sometimes it's hard to get the Zoom call going. When you're talking, the communication will drop. You've got to redial, reestablish the conversation again. So just recently, Tanzania has put in a fiber network broadband backbone network. And Iringa is right in the center of the network. And so the university is going to be able to connect through to this fiber network. So it's going to be able to provide strong communication access to cities all through Tanzania. That's going to be a big advantage. So there's 2 parts of the benefit that the university is going to get from this. First of all, the interactive displays in a classroom. In a small classroom, you can have students collaborating with each other. They can connect to the computer, to the internet, and really get enhanced presentations locally in the classroom. The other half of it is being able to let students remotely access the class. So we've got professors at the university, and they are going to be able to connect the interactive smart classrooms, and they will be able to enable students that are living remotely. And as I talked to Dr. Jumbe, the dean of the law faculty last week, she said that they have potential students in Nigeria and Uganda that are going to be able to connect to classes when this is installed. And it's going to be able to spread from there. In addition, the students there at the university will be able to access classes that are being taught at other universities, both throughout Tanzania and also other European countries. Professors will be able to collaborate with professors at other universities, and there's a real need for community development and training for rural organizations that will be able to take advantage of the capability and talent there at the university. So there's a lot of benefit that this project is going to provide. So, what's it going to cost? Well, the total cost for this project we estimate to be about $20,000, and it's the equipment, the value-added tax, and then we've thrown in miscellaneous cabling and hardware, because in Tanzania, there's always things come up that nobody anticipated. And talking to Chris Dirks, we know that it's important to show recognition for Rotary, so we'll have plaques in each of the 4 classrooms identifying both the Iringa Rotary Club as well as our Minnesota Rotary Clubs that have collaborated with donations. And finally, Chris recommended you might want to think about adding in a contingency fund, because things happen that you don't know about, and as long as you provide the receipts, it's all fine. So, where does the money come from? Well, this was the project funding. We have 8 clubs that have collaborated and provided grants of anywhere from $500 up to $1,000, and then Lakeville and Morningside were both partnering on this grant. We all both contributed $2,000, and that enabled us to get a 2-to-1 district match and a district outright match totaling $10,000. And this is really, how many people have written grants in the room? And we all know it takes a lot of work. Obviously, the grant review committee, they do a lot of due diligence. So they want to make sure that anytime there's district matching funds granted, that the project provides, it's a real humanitarian need, and it's going to be well managed. And it really is, and we've got host partners that are really going to do the work, and there's sweat equity involved. So it's a good thing that they're doing a lot of due diligence, but it does take a lot of work, and it takes a lot of work to collaborate with other clubs. So thank you for the collaboration we've received from Bloomington. And what's our project schedule? This is going to be submitted to the Grant Review Committee on the 18th. And so we will get funds shortly after that. We'll be contacting you as soon as the Grant Review Committee has given us the approval and go-ahead. And the host club then will be, the funds will be transmitted to the host club in Iringa, and they will be making the purchases of the equipment. And they already know exactly what equipment they're going to be purchasing. And we expect to have the installation complete in October. Now, and actually, I got the last donation from a collaborating club on August the 8th. So we submitted it to the Grant Review Committee a little bit later than I had really wanted to. And I called Dr. Jumbe and said, is that a problem? And she said, well, classes won't start until November. Well, we were talking at the table about classes here starting in August, and some classes have already started last week. Every country is different. This year in Tanzania is an election year. Elections are held in October. And during elections, students don't go back to school because elections is a big deal. It should be everywhere. So getting the equipment up and running by November works fine for their situation. Once again, it's part of the importance of doing good needs and assessment. Well, I've gone through the presentation a little bit faster than I had expected, but this is really important. And I'd like to go back and just emphasize one more time, that this is my second time of writing a grant. And the first one was pretty simple. It was a single club grant, so that was easier. This is the first time writing a project where we had included 8 different clubs. And so what we have done is we've really tried to understand which are the clubs that really work well, that regularly are submitting grants and that are regularly collaborating with other clubs. And those are the clubs that we have asked to join with us this time. And so it's one of the things that we really are trying to consciously think about is who are the clubs that we really want to partner with on a strategic basis going forward. And so we were very happy when Sonia Gupta came forward with her grant for India. We were very glad to be a collaborating club for that grant, knowing full well we were going to partner together on this grant. And that's what really makes Rotary work. And we had Mark Shockey come and talk to us, our new district governor, and his theme for the year is Rotary Together. And the way we work together on grants is an example of that, working together. So at this point, I'd like to ask for any questions. Becky.
I might have missed this. Is it one screen, one classroom, or multiples? And what subject matters then are they going to use this for?
It's going to be 4 classrooms, and the classrooms are all pretty standard. So I'm not sure which specific classes are going to be using it, but the university has a couple of areas that they really focus on. One is law, and the other is community development, which is a large need in Tanzania. And also, they're providing STEM classes, and another large need is for tourism, because a big part of the income for Tanzania comes from tourism because they have all of the game parks. And by the way, I should have added that the average income in Tanzania is about $1,200 per person per year, $1,200 per capita. And by comparison then, smallholder farmers, the income is about $300 a year. And without the assistance of our cooperatives of providing hybrid seed and fertilizer, where they can actually get up to close to $1,200 a year. Yeah, Larry?
Norm, you said the yields on the farm with seed and fertilizer was about 60 bushels an acre. You also said that your friends in Illinois are reporting almost 3 or 4 times that amount.
250 to 300 bushels an acre is possible.
What are the differences between using a hybrid seed and fertilizer in Tanzania and the yields and what we might get in fertile farmland in the U.S.?
Well, there's a couple things going on there. First of all, they have not been using hybrid seed or fertilizer especially, and the soil becomes depleted after being farmed year after year after year. There's another thing that goes on, that when you're turning over the soil with a broad hoe all the stalks that are left over from last year's crop get in the way. And so the practice historically has been to rake up all those stalks and burn them in the fields. And so when you're not returning organic matter back to the soil becomes depleted even further. Each year when you're raising, as they call it, maize there, corn here, you are taking so much nutrients out of the soil, especially nitrogen, and inorganic fertilizer will replace those nutrients. I went to visit a farm. Farmer had about 1,500 acres, and one of the large farmers. And he talked about his maximum yield is about 160 acres. And I said, well, what would you have to do to get higher than that? And he said that, like it or not, sometimes it's controversial, but in Tanzania, they do not allow any genomic seeds. And some countries just aren't allowing that. Here in the U.S., it is allowed, and that's why we are getting such high yields, because it's a concentration of the proper seeds, proper fertilizer, and getting the right seed population in the ground. That's a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually guessing that the 6 feet of topsoil in northern Illinois, Iowa, and southern Minnesota has something to do with it too. But I have 2 questions. First of all, a quick one is, given the colonial history of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, or Tanganyika and Zanzibar, I assume the classes are in English?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that's right.
And the other question is, how much of that 80% of the population that are agrarian workers are like family farm owners or versus workers on larger ones owned by absentee landlords?
Yeah, the number of large farms is really very, very small. And so when they're 80% of the people are farming, they're farming on small 2 to 4 acres. I ran into a few people that were farming 20 acres, but the predominance is 2 to 4 acres. And there was 2 parts to your question.
No, the English was the other part.
Yeah, that's a good point. The native language is Swahili, and then there's also tribal dialects. It's a very interesting country. So Tanzania, along with most of the African countries, gained their independence in the 60s. And so the first president of the country, he really wanted to mandate Swahili as the single language in the country to really bring the country together, because there was many tribes in the country. In the area of Iringa, the tribe is Hehe, and you have different tribes in different parts of the country. The government has said that any publications are printed in English. They might also be printed in Swahili, but they're also printed in English, because English really is the language of finance. So classes, I said the classes would be conducted in English. Some would be in Swahili, but English is predominant for really well-educated people throughout the country. Good question. Yes?
Are there clubs in Tanzania that participate in this project?
Yes. The club that we participate with, our host club for this project, is the Rotary Club of Iringa. And I can't tell you how many clubs there are, but you will find clubs in most of the major cities. And it's always amazes me, wherever I go, I'm finding Rotary clubs. I just recently visited New Zealand, and we were walking down the street in Auckland, and there's a Rotary sign, Rotary meets here. So it is amazing how many clubs we find everywhere. Yeah.
I have a question, Norm. How did you get connected with this, and how did Rotary get connected with Iringa? What brought this about?
Life happens. So a member of the church that I belong to, his daughter was leading mission trips to Tanzania. And he asked me if I was interested in going. And I said, I think that sounds great. And so there were 10 of us, and we were visiting a little town called Melangali, not too far from Iringa. And everybody was supposed to have a project. Now, I'd never been to Africa before, and I had no idea what a project would be. I didn't know anything about what I would expect to see. And someone said, there's a presentation you ought to listen to. And it was a professor from the University of Minnesota and the founder of Iringa Hope, the organization that provides microfinance loans. And they were giving a presentation on microfinance loans and how it works and what the benefits are. And I said, I can do that. And so my first project was to raise funds for the initial capital of a new microfinance co-op. And I met the folks there and learned from them all the good that it would do. I had a chance to go to a number of different villages with the staff and hear the presentations, and I was kind of hooked after that, just seeing the difference that it makes. I have a chance when I'm going there. I'll be there for about 6 weeks every year, and when I go to a village, we'll interview a man and a woman from each of the co-ops, and I have a chance to hear their life stories, and it's just amazing. People are hardworking, and with given a chance, given access to capital, it makes a huge difference in the lives, and most important, the lives of their families. Because when I ask them, okay, what are you going to do with your profits? Well, the answers are always the same, and it's the same answers that we would hear if we asked every one of you here, if you had more money, what would you do? Well, first of all, it's education for their children. And there, you still see some, mud brick homes with a thatched roof and a dirt floor. Fewer and fewer these days, but people are building, expanding their homes, building a new home, and they do most of the work themselves. They buy bricks and they build the home themselves and put in a concrete floor. And they get better food for their families, better nutrition, better health care. So it's the same things all the world around. And people are so proud to tell me when their son or daughter has gone on to graduate from a university. And it's because they had the additional money that they were earning to be able to fund that. And they tell me about how their son or daughter are now doctors. So it's really heartwarming. Yeah, Carol?
I'm curious, when you mentioned two things. One, some of the average annual incomes are as low as $300.
Right.
And then you said that the microloans are about $300, which is like getting your entire annual income all up front. So how long is the repay period? Does it vary for each client?
That's a very good question. Microfinance was started by a gentleman in Bangladesh. His name was Mohammed Yunus. And he started providing microfinance loans. And the people that would take the loans were typically women who would buy material to sew. And he would ask them to pay back the next week, paying a little bit back. And we just realized that that doesn't work if you're a farmer, because you make all your investment up front and then you don't harvest until 6 months later. And so we made our program so that the repayment would come about a year afterwards, which is a long time. But that way, farmers were able to harvest their crops, and they were able to, if they could, store their crops some 4 months after harvest to get the best prices. So not everybody is doing that, and we found that that was what was really successful for our organization. Good question. Yes?
Just for what it's worth, it was an interesting observation I had from my daughter's father-in-law, and he was a graduate of the Indian Institute of Technology and Engineering, but his father and his really their whole caste in India were farmers. And I said, oh yeah, there's really quite a transition. He said, well, if you think about it, almost everybody in the world doesn't have to go back that many generations, before there's a farmer in their background, whether it's the family people in my background or whatever. And I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing, because here you obviously are transitioning probably eventually. It won't be 80% agrarian, it will maybe be 50-50 at some point as people take classes in math and law and things of that sort.
Well, it's really interesting, because the problem that Tanzania is seeing, it's a developing country. And they're doing all the things that make sense. They're putting in railroads, they're putting in highways, putting in fiber backbone systems for communication. But there just isn't enough investment there, and they lack jobs. So when the students are graduating, if they're graduating in education, it's hard for them to get jobs. And when students are graduating with a degree in STEM, in technology, those are the jobs that students are going to get those jobs. So they're going through that transition where farms are going to become consolidated, but you need to have places where children can go to for jobs. And that is, they're going through that difficult stage right now. Yes?
What are the provisions and how does looking forward, all this stuff is going to wear out and require replacement. There's going to be a lot of maintenance, and computer security is getting like, how is all that being established, and how is it going to go forward?
And are you thinking specifically about the smart classrooms for the university?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the questions that you have to respond to for the grant review committee. How is the equipment going to be maintained? And so the host Rotary Club is going to be working with the university. The university has a communications and technology department, and they will be working with the people that provide the equipment to do any ongoing maintenance that's going to be required. And that's the beauty of when you purchase equipment in country, then you've got people there that are knowledgeable about how to maintain the equipment. And I see Kurt is approaching the podium.
No, and any last questions? We're doing good on time. Well, thank you, Norm. I appreciate you. For all you do, not only for Rotary, for humanity, really, and what you're doing in this project. And we appreciate Edina Morningside and Mindy joining us today, too. Betsy, and it's always good to see you. With that, we are dismissed.